Welcome into the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on November 17th. We are 13 games into the Utah Jazz season. And the Jazz sit with a record of 5-8, which is a topic of much conversation for Jazz fans right now. It's a lot more wins than they were used to over the last couple of years at this point. I don't know. I guess 2 years ago they may have already had 5 wins. Yeah. But last year they didn't have this until, mid-December?
December 6th is when they got their 5th win last year.
So they were sitting on 4 wins for a long time.
Yep.
And that's not where they are right now. We will talk about that, certainly. We'll talk about the week that was. We'll talk about the upcoming week for the Utah Jazz, which, spoiler alert, may put fans who are worried about the team winning too much, might put your nerves at ease a little bit, because the schedule does get tougher from here really on the rest of the way. The Jazz may have wrapped up their easiest stretch of the schedule so far this season. And then we will get your mailbag, as always. Find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ben's Hoops. You can find Chandler at Holt Sports. And always, read us at KSLSports.com. Appreciate you downloading the podcast, listening to it wherever you do, finding us on YouTube. We really shouldn't. I mean, it could always change, but we should be on YouTube every time, I think, every Monday and every Thursday now from here on out. So expect that. All right, Chandler, where should we start?
Start with the week that was for the Utah Jazz, the 4th week of the season. I think we both said 1-3 for the week. They ended up going 2-2. Started with a loss to the Timberwolves, 120-113, much more respectable than the 40-point loss to the Timberwolves the game before that. And then they beat the Pacers, 152-128. Then a loss to the Hawks, 132-122. That was a crazy game. And then the craziest game of the week, the last one on Sunday, win over the Bulls, 150-147. That game went into double overtime. Markkanen flirting with 50 points again. He had 47. And then Keontae, 33-6. I think the biggest story of that game was Keontae. He started 2 for 10 in the first half, and then he comes back and is just lights out in the second half, finishes, like I said, 33 points, also had 6 assists.
Yeah, a very mature second half from Keontae, and he talked about it after the game, and Will Hardy talked about it after the game. It's just, these are games that maybe Keontae wouldn't have been able to fix that last year or 2 years ago. And he's now figured out, I don't even know if he would have been able to do it in the first game of the season. I think his evolution, even the growth this season of, sticking with it, not to be cliche, is paying off for him. So he's been very good.
Also in that last game, Ace Bailey, he fouled out in 10 minutes, which was another storyline from that one. But prior to that game, the 2 games prior, 20 points against the Pacers in the win, and then 21 points against the Hawks. He had a really good week, probably his best week of the year to this point.
Yeah, Bryce has been in and out of the lineup. Will Hardy also talked about that and got a big opportunity with Ace Bailey fouling out and had to play the entire fourth quarter and overtime, both overtimes, and paid off. He made shots and he played good defense, and the Bulls were some of the problem there. I mean, the Bulls are a mess. In all honesty, I know they started red hot, but they've lost 5 straight. I think they've lost 7 of 8. That's actually that's a loss. I think Jazz fans are like, are we too good? It's like, no, the Bulls are bad. The Bulls are really bad. You should beat really bad teams when you're at home, and they barely beat them.
I can't remember the exact players that were involved in this, but I think it was in the first overtime of the Bulls game. The Jazz had a bad turnover in the backcourt, and then the Bulls go down and they turn it over with an opportunity to tie the game. Yes.
Yeah, Kobe White has a chance to make a layup and can't. And Kobe White was really good last night, but Kobe White could not jump off the floor to get a basket. It was the Yusuf Nurkic inbound pass to Keontae, and he just couldn't, he didn't get the ball up or whatever it was. And then, the Bulls should have won that game, in all honesty. You look back on it, several opportunities to win that game. The Bulls should have. And the Jazz could make that same argument, but neither here nor there. An exciting game and kind of an exciting week of basketball. The Atlanta game was amazing to watch because of what Jalen Johnson did. He nearly had a quadruple-double, but the Jazz had, Larry Markkanen scored over 40. They came back from down big to almost win that game, or to have a chance to win that game, until the offense fell apart over the last 6 minutes. But 2-2. Truthfully, with how much Chicago has fallen off, including this past week, probably not a terribly surprising record. I actually don't know, even though we both predicted 1-3, if we knew where Chicago would be at this point, that we would have not said 2-2 last week. I'm actually not sure this is like a crazy outlier from the standard deviation of wins for the Jazz. But an enjoyable week. If you're a Jazz fan at this point, and I know that there are the tanking fans that are worried about it, and again, I promise you we'll talk about it. We got questions about it in the mailbag. 90% of Jazz fans just want to tune in and see the team play well.
Yes.
And you've been able to see that for the last 4 games. Like, they're playing okay. A 7-point loss at home against Minnesota is totally reasonable. And Ace Bailey broke out, which is the other big piece of news. The 2 players who had very good weeks. You mentioned Bryce already. Well, I mean, so did Lowry.
Yeah.
But we're Ace Bailey, who's playing really good basketball, minus last night. And Isaiah Collier, who has returned to the lineup and has become stellar.
And if you look at this game, like I don't think, even though it was only a 7-point game, which is a closer loss than the loss to the Hawks, I don't think the Jazz were ever going to beat the Timberwolves in that game. Anthony Edwards just licks his fingers every time he sees whatever the Jazz do on defense. But in that Hawks game, it took a almost quadruple double from Jalen Johnson and double O on Onyeka Okongwu turning into prime Steph Curry to beat the Jazz at the end of the day. So, yeah, like you said, the team is playing well right now. It's fun to watch. And the other thing, and again, we will talk about lottery and the fans looking for losses later on, but you were the worst team in the league and you fell to 5. You know,
right.
You can only control so much. So as long as you're in the lottery, which isn't like even a debate, they're going to be a bottom 14 team, then just let the, no pun intended, balls decide your fate.
Yeah, and they will. Yeah. And the Jazz, again, will adjust accordingly, I suspect. Quickly, kind of interesting, over the last 4 games, and some of these guys didn't play every game, so like Walt Clayton only played in 2 of these games. But I just looking at plus-minus stats are kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like them that much as a stat, 1-to-1, game-to-game, and even week-to-week, they're pretty flawed. But here's kind of interesting. Over the last week, the Jazz's leader in plus-minus was Walt Clayton. He averaged plus 8.5. Number 2, this would shock. Fans would never guess this because fans think he's the worst player of all time. It's Cody Williams.
Yeah.
Cody's been a little bit of a plus-minus doctor recently. And I just want to give Cody a little bit of love. He's playing really good defense. And if you went and watched Chicago last night, again, he can't score. No. He's the weirdest. He's one of the weirder players I've ever seen, in all honesty. His athleticism, north-south, is poor. He's actively like well below average for an NBA player. But east to west is really good. Like, he really slides his feet well, and to the point where Will Hardy said, you're going to be the head of the snake defensively. Like, he is the point of attack defender for the Utah Jazz for long stretches where he played 19 minutes or so last night, and he is, some of it their zone, some of it's man-to-man, but like the guard, Kobe White, or whoever it is bringing the ball up the floor, Cody Williams is on the other side of the half-court line waiting for him to pick him up to start the Jazz's defensive possession. That's a wrinkle. That's not something we'd seen a whole lot of. He's not just hiding in the corner on somebody. They are saying, if you're going to be in the NBA, you're going to have a job, and you're going to have to do that job well, because the offensive side is not something you offer much on. And look, I actually kind of think offenses can get away with not having 5 players who need to touch the ball. Now, you have to do something with it when you do touch it, and Cody's not doing that right now. But I don't think all 5 guys need to be able to touch the ball every possession for you to actually have a reasonable offense. Cody doesn't need to touch the ball a whole lot. You can do it with the other 4 guys and be fine. But you do need to have guys who can play defense, and the Jazz don't have a lot of good defensive players, and Cody Williams actually might be one of them.
I don't think there's anything stopping Cody from being like a Jaden McDaniels. Like, McDaniels has games where he'll just like score 20 and it's like mid-range pull-ups.
And he's had a huge breakout offensively.
But even then, like, if he's an 80% defense, 20% offense guy, and you're shooting at least like, 35% on catch and shoot threes, which is not totally out of the realm of possibility. He doesn't have it yet. But even so, like, I've noticed a lot better finishing from Cody this year. Like, there's a lot of times he'll go to the rim and be like, okay, let's see what happens here. And it's actually like a good finish through contact. So there are improvements. And I think a lot of that is just a year under his belt, more pounds on his frame. And I think those are things that are just going to get better. And like you have said many times, I don't think there's anything stopping Cody, and he may already be on track to just be the 8th man for the Jazz.
He may just have to know what shots he's taking and have one shot that he makes. Yes. In all honesty, that might be where it starts. It might be, I have one shot that I make, and I'm going to practice that over and over and over and over again. And it's probably a corner 3. Yeah. That's probably it. And Cody's just got to go take 500 of those every day and learn how to make it, like you said, at 34, 35%. And if he does that, he becomes a 3-and-D wing, and then you start building things off of, yes, I stand in the corner, which is exactly where Jaden McDaniels started his career, right? He hit a bunch of corner threes and then started adding things, and now by, year 4? Year 5, whatever he's at right now, he's become a very dynamic offensive player. Cody Williams is not going to become that level of player because he's not that fluid of an athlete, but he's valuable. And you look at a guy like Derrick Jones Jr., who, again, is all athlete, but has become a very good NBA player, or Dante Exum, who's become a very reasonable NBA player by just being a really good defensive player who can knock down the occasional shot. That might be the pathway for Cody, but it's a pathway. And that was something that I don't know if we knew what it looked like at the end of the year last year.
Absolutely. Anything else on the last week?
Kyle Filipowski plus 5.8, Isaiah Collier plus 5.3 in 26 minutes per game. In a week when the Jazz are 2-2, and then to your point, you brought up how well Bryce has played. Bryce plus 5 per, and these are all per game. Yeah. This is your average per game in his 4 games as well. So kind of interesting. You know, Lauri Markkanen's plus 2.5. Everybody else, other than Yusuf Nurkic, who's plus 1.5, is negative, including Keontae George, who's a negative 7. Svi Mykhailiuk a negative 5.8, and Ace Bailey a negative 4.3. Where that gets interesting is A, those are 3 starters, and B is that Ace Bailey has a negative 19 every time he's on the floor. Yeah. So this is this is a part of it. Maybe we're bleeding into too much here going forward with, are you worried about the Jazz winning too many games? One of the reasons the Jazz are winning games right now is because Taylor Hendricks is out of the lineup. And this is not a knock on Taylor. Taylor is coming back from a major injury after playing, 43 games?
Yeah.
These young guys do not help you win. And right now, Ace Bailey is moving into the starting lineup, but he's kind of the only true young guy that's in the rotation. Walt Clayton's not playing right now. We get a question about that. We'll talk about it in the mailbag. And Taylor's hurt, so he's not playing. So, yeah, you've got some first and there. You've got some second-year players playing in Collier and Cody Williams and Kyle Filipowski, but, Taylor's borderline first-year player, fewer than 80 games under his belt. Ace Bailey's a first-year player. Walt's a first-year player, and only one of those guys in the rotation right now. That's why the Jazz are winning. That's Svi playing, Kevin Love playing, Yusuf Nurkic playing. These guys knowing how to play is going to allow you to beat teams like the Chicago Bulls at home, win a double overtime game. Whereas Taylor, assuming he comes back healthy and is back in the lineup, and Ace Bailey doesn't foul out in 10 minutes, they're going to cost you games because they're just still learning how to figure it out.
That's something that I don't think a lot of people really realize is although Ace Bailey is more athletic and probably more talented than Svi Mykhailiuk, just that knowledge that you have results in more open shots and good looks and better defense within the game. Ace Bailey, he'll probably make tougher shots than Svi will, but just generating open looks and good offense and good defense over and over and over is how you win games.
Just doing the right thing every time really matters. Wisdom at this point matters more than talent where the Jazz are. You're right. Ace is 1,000 times more talented than Svi. Yeah. He just is. He's a great shooter. That's already coming along very quickly. His athletic tools are absurd. He's learning the game so fast. He's doing something every night that I haven't seen him do previously. Yeah. He is honestly at the most exciting step of development for rookies, which is just the game is now coming to him and slowing down for him. And he misses the three yesterday and gets his own rebound and then goes and throws it down. He's recognizing space and time and how quickly he needs to do things and what he can get away with and what he can't get away with. It's really exciting to watch. But yes, Svi right now is still going to help you win more, which is crazy to say, but that's how good the NBA is. That's why Svi is still in the NBA. And I know Jazz fans hate Svi right now. There is a question about that as well, which we can address Svi there. But no, it's been interesting to watch these guys play. Ace Bailey, what's he shooting this last week? 52% from the floor, 43% from three.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's playing awesome.
Yeah.
He's playing really good basketball.
All right, now week 5, the next week for the Jazz. Quick break on the road and then returning home for 2 more games. Starts in Los Angeles against the Lakers on Tuesday, then host OKC Thunder on Friday, and then welcome the Lakers to town on Sunday.
We can make our prediction for this week, but let me really expand this out.
Okay.
And I'm just going to name the teams. Mm-hmm. You count in your head the number of wins. Don't do wins and losses. Just count wins because you'll understand why it's easier.
Yeah.
This is up until Christmas.
Okay.
So from now till Christmas, I think the Jazz have 14 games. At the Lakers, home against OKC, home against the Lakers, at Golden State, home against Sacramento, back-to-back at home against the Houston Rockets, at Brooklyn, at the Knicks, home against the Thunder, home against the Lakers, home against the Magic, at the Nuggets, home against the Grizzlies.
2.
You got 2. I think there might be 3.
Okay.
And look, the Jazz are playing better than I'm giving them credit for.
Yeah.
So maybe they beat Golden State on the road. Mm-hmm. Maybe they catch Golden State, who's fine, but they're asking Steph to do a whole lot. Maybe you split randomly with the Rockets on a home back-to-back, both in Salt Lake City. Maybe you steal one of those. But, I think you beat Sacramento.
Yeah.
I think you might beat Memphis. But Ja might be back at that point.
Yeah.
At Brooklyn. Okay, that's 3 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're going to beat the Lakers? You think you're going to beat the Thunder? You think you're going to beat the Nuggets? You think you're going to beat the Rockets? These are actually the best teams in the West and the NBA right now. The Knicks on the road, you're not beating the Knicks. Probably on the second night of a back-to-back. Am I right on that? Yeah, second night of a back-to-back. So Jazz fans, if you are so focused on the tank and the lottery balls, which I get, I understand. This is not... You didn't make this up yourself. You have been trained to feel this way for 3 straight seasons, or at least 2.5 straight seasons, the last 2 years fully, and then really the second half of Will Hardy's first year after they traded Mike Conley, that losing games is beneficial for the team. I get why you feel this way. Truthfully, it's not your fault. I wrote an article about it last week. It's okay to be not the worst team in the NBA, and I still stand by that. But that's 14 games. If let's say they win 3 optimistically, just 50% more than you think, they will be sitting at 8-19 on the season.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're winning 33% of your games again, or less, well below. That's probably right below 30% of your games. And I don't know, what's 82 times 0.3 equals 24.5 games. That's again, you're at 25 wins at that pace going into the Christmas break. If you're going into the Christmas break with a 25 win projection, you're just fine.
Yeah.
And you know you will have played the best basketball of your season so far because you know after the All-Star break you're going to back out if you feel like, okay, you got to lose a couple of extra games to hold on to that pick. It's just like where I would just tell everyone to just like relax.
Yeah. Relax.
You've played, I think according to the Tankathon, I looked at it yesterday, the second easiest schedule in the NBA still. You've had a lot of dogs on your roster. No, and not on your roster, on your schedule. Like a lot of bad teams. It's going to get tougher.
Yeah.
Though young guys are probably actually going to get worse. I know you think young guys get better. They get worse because they get tired. Like, it's going to catch up to you.
I want to go through an exercise for you, looking at the standings right now. Right now, the Jazz are 10th, so there's 5 teams below them. I want you to say if there's any team below the Jazz that you're confident will stay worse than the Jazz this year.
Okay.
The LA Clippers, the Memphis Grizzlies,
okay,
Dallas Mavericks, Sacramento Kings, New Orleans Pelicans.
Because of the raw number of teams you mentioned, yes, one of those teams will.
Yeah.
But the argument against them is the Clippers are full of veterans, and Kawhi's been out for 2 weeks now with an ankle injury and will come back.
Yeah.
They don't own their draft pick. It also goes to OKC.
Yes.
So they've got absolutely no reason to lose games. Pelicans, absolutely no reason to lose games, hence them firing Willie Green to go and bring in James Borrega, who's actually a pretty good coach. I think James is a fine coach. He will get them right. And again, what's the standings right now? What's the difference in win total between the Jazz and the Pelicans?
Pelicans have 2, Jazz have 5.
Talk about 3 games over a 70-game stretch,
yes.
right? 3 wins over a 70-game stretch. So nobody's really out of reach. Maybe the Wizards, because the Wizards have 1 win. Wizards aren't going to be good this year, and there's actually a borderline disaster going on there right now that their young players, though they like Alex Sarr's scoring well. Like, are your guys not getting better? What's going on there? Why are guys not getting better? Is a question. The Kings might just be a flat-out disaster, but yeah, it's Zach LaVine, and it's Domantas Sabonis, and it's DeMar DeRozan. Like, conceivably, that team should be better than the Jazz. Yeah. Now, they don't have a player as good as Lowry.
Yeah, true.
In fact, none of these teams may have a player as good as Lowry that we've talked about right now. Is Kawhi better than Lowry right now? Like, if he's not on the floor, he's definitely not. The Pelicans, no, because I just don't think Zion's on the floor healthy enough, and even when he is, like, how much better is he than when Lowry's averaging 30 points a game? Sacramento does not. Memphis is without Ja now for the next 2 weeks. We'll see if that actually makes them worse or not. I don't know. Ja seems to hate their head coach. He seems to hate what they're doing. They're a little bit of a disaster. And then you mentioned one more team.
Dallas Mavericks.
Dallas could just pull the plug.
Yeah.
And they should trade Anthony Davis, and I am in the court that believes they should trade Kyrie Irving. And the truth is they probably don't need to trade Kyrie because if they're so bad, Kyrie's just not going to come back this season. He'll just say, I'm just going to make sure my knee is at 110% before I come back. But AD should be back any time now, right? And AD is as good or better than Lauri Markkanen. And when he's right, he's way better than Lauri Markkanen. And so one of those teams will certainly be worse than the Jazz. All 5 of them have an argument to be better.
Yeah. My point for saying this is for all of the teams below the Jazz right now, it is either a coin flip or I'm picking the other team on who will win that game. The Kings already beat the Jazz this year.
Yep.
And if you're looking, and the whole point of this is looking up to the Eastern Conference now. The Wizards, Indiana Pacers, Brooklyn Nets, and Charlotte Hornets are going to play each other 3 or 4 times this year.
Yeah, they all have to play each other, which is a nice trump card to be able to play, is that, yes, the Nets are terrible. They did just have to beat the Washington Wizards last night. Somebody had to win that game. Yeah, I don't know if... I think there's a real argument that the Nets, Pacers, and Wizards all finish with worse record than the Jazz.
Yeah,
which puts the Jazz right around 4 or 5. And then are the Jazz the worst team in the Western Conference? Probably not.
Yeah.
So that puts the Jazz right at 6. And I think that's about where the safe spot is, where if you're 6, the odds of you holding onto your pick are really high.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to get jumped by 3 teams because remember, you have to actually fall to 9.
Yes.
You can hold on to it 6, 7, or 8. You have to fall to 9 to lose that pick, which again, you know what? The 9th pick is also not absurdly valuable. It's good. You never want to lose a 9th overall pick. But the Jazz's picks 9 and 10 in recent years have been Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams. Like, would the Jazz be okay if they didn't have Taylor Hendricks or Cody Williams this year? Yes.
Yes.
They would be just fine. Like, no, you would rather have a top 4 pick, but you might not be top 4 pick bad, is the truth. So I get it. Do we want to talk about any more this week? Do you want to make our prediction for this week?
Yes. So in LA against the Lakers, home against OKC and the Lakers again.
Winless.
winless. I agree. I'm 0-3.
Might get LeBron back tomorrow.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, you're just not going to beat the Lakers on the road with or without LeBron. Sure. I don't think. Thunder are just an absurd machine right now, and then I think the Lakers are going to beat you again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Jazz could be 0-3, and again, then you're 5-11, and everyone can turn off the panic alarms. The bombs aren't coming. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Should we take a break?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right. We always wrap up the show on Mondays with the mailbag. The mailbag takes 40 minutes, so it's not like the podcast is coming to an end. Find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops and Holt Sports. Same with Blue Sky. My DMs are open. You can always reach me there or respond to the prompt on Monday when I tweet it out. I also put it on Blue Sky, but I don't know what they call that. So I do put it out there. I will start with Blue Sky first, and then we'll get to my DMs, and then we will get to the Twitter questions. Alex Currit says, it really seems like Bryce was actually trying on defense last night. If you're listening to this, a couple of days from now, this was the game against the Chicago Bulls that the Jazz won. Any thoughts on whether or how much he has improved on that end this season? Until last night, seemingly not at all.
Yeah.
Bryce has just had a lot of defensive lapses. Will Hardy is seemingly yelling in his face every single time he walks off the floor about defensive lapses he makes. And last night he looked better. And I asked Bryce about it after the game, and I just said, do you feel like you're playing better? What's going on? And he says he knows there's a narrative about him, and he knows that there are flaws about him on that end, and he thinks with his shot, these weren't all my questions, by the way. I'm not trying to take credit for all these, but these are things he said to us in the media scrum, that he knows there's a narrative about him, and he's got to get better. And I just asked, do you feel like you're playing your best defense when you're thinking or not thinking? And he said, I still have to really think about it hard. And that's the problem. He says, I want to get to a point where I don't have to think about it, but I don't think it comes natural to him.
Yeah.
Where some guys, and Cody Williams is a good example of this, Cody just moves in the right spots defensively. It's really funny to watch. A guy who looks sometimes so lost offensively, Cody's just got some real innate behavior defensively on how to fill space and how to if this help defender of mine shifts left, I'm going to shift right to make sure that we have this gap covered. It's really a natural thing that Cody does well. Elijah Harkless obviously does it really well. Rudy does it as well as anybody I've ever seen in my life. Rudy Gobert, no longer with the Jazz, but Bryce doesn't know those yet. Yeah. He doesn't quite sense the spacing of what the defense is doing or what the offense is doing, and then how to map that. He doesn't map it very well, and so I think he's really having to work hard, and it's just a long process. It's a hard thing to learn how to do.
I will say a good sign is in Bryce's rookie year, he was he tried really hard to be a 3-level scorer. There was a lot of mid-ranges that weren't the best shots. And then going into year 2, before the year, he said, I need to be the best shooter to stay in the NBA. And he was a 44% three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. And then before this year, he said, I need to be a good defender so that I can have a 10-year NBA career.
Yeah.
He, like we have talked about, we've given Bryce a lot of credit for he knows what he needs to do. And I think knowing and trying is the 2 boxes you need to check. Mm-hmm. And I think Bryce has those checked. He's just not there yet, like you said. But if he's putting an effort in, it will come around at least a little bit. So,
next question on Blue Sky, but I totally agree with you. Nice Joe Green. I love Keontae's growth this year, but I don't understand why he's such a poor three-point shooter. Has anyone ever had a discrepancy as wide as his three-point percentage and his field goal percentage? The truth is he's not a very good field goal percentage shooter either. He started the year at 64%, but that's fallen off. He's at 50% from 2 now on the season. It's that's fine. That's not great. Above 50% is a much better number when you're talking about a guy who should be shooting a lot of layups and not taking a lot of mid-range jump shots, so that's just going to be naturally a part of his diet. And the truth is about Keontae, he's never been a good shooter.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good shooter in college. He shot 37% from the floor in college, not on 2-point shots, but overall. And a lot of that was because he was a 34% three-point shooter in college. This is always who he's been. And the bet was that he was going to develop that because it seemed like he kind of looks like a good shooter. And you see him make threes and you're like, oh, that should be replicable. And they're still not going in. And I do think his shot diet is better. He still takes a lot of off-the-dribble threes, but I do think his shot diet is better. And it is concerning that it is not going in.
He's taking 2.5 more field goals a game compared to last year, but a little more, 1.2 less threes a game. So, I think the shot diet is a lot better. He's getting better looks more within the offense, but I don't expect him to be shooting 28 is what he's at right now.
No,
for the rest of the year.
Again, that's abnormally low.
Yes.
So if he can get back to 34%, and keep his, 2-point percentage, but his overall field goal percentage up where it is right now, which is 41%. Now, again, field goal percentage is different than 2-point percentage.
Yes.
Field goal percentage incorporates your 3-point shots too, differently than effective field goal percentage, which counts free throws and et cetera like that. Field goal percentage is truly just the combination of your 2 points and your 3 points. It's every shot you take, not counting free throws. So if his 3-point percentage gets back to 33%, his field goal percentage will jump to 44. And then he'll be at, 44% from the floor and 34 or 35% from three, which is a major jump from the guy last year who shot 39% from the floor and 34% from three or 33% from three. So, or 39% from the floor and then 33% from three. I know it's a lot of numbers.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So I do think the 3-point percentage is going to climb. In fact, I would be interested to look back. I know he didn't shoot particularly well last night, but let me just pull up his game logs here, because I would bet you they've actually improved, because he had some real dogs to start the year. And I'm not pretending he's been a great 3-point shooter recently, but even if you just go back to, let's say, 7 games. We'll do half the season, the first 6 games and then the last 7 games. Let's see if I can get this to load quickly. Sometimes Basketball Reference is really slow with this. I bet you he's a lot better.
Yeah.
Or I can actually just do it on the NBA. It's a lot faster. NBA's last 7 games. Keontae George, as a 3-point shooter, is shooting... Oh, man. Sorry, this is being so slow. This is really boring. He's still only at 29%. Yeah. So it's not like it's coming around as quickly as maybe I thought it would. And again, he had a 3 of 10 performance last night, and that's really going to hurt you. So, yeah, it's got to come up. Historically, it has. He has been a bad shooter to start the years historically, and has bounced back a little bit and then tends to lose it again later in the season. We'll see if that number climbs up. The
thing that I think with Keontae is nice is when we talk about the shot diet is I do expect the 3 to come up to at least like 33%. And then, like you said, his field goal percentage will be at 44 then. Compared, that's 5% jump from last year. So then if he's 44 and 34 to end this year, next year he can be like, okay, my field goal percentage was decent last year. Now let me get a 36 from 3.
If he can do that.
Yes.
The nice thing is he's already bailing himself out because he's getting to the line 5 or 6 times a game, and he shoots 93% there. So actually 44%, 34%, and 90% from the free throw line with 7 attempts is far more in the mold of De'Aaron Fox, who I'm not a huge De'Aaron Fox fan, but it is very survivable.
Yes.
Right? Like that's a usable player. It's not my ideal type of point guard, but it is very serviceable. What is interesting, again, and the hard part for Keontae, and again, I did ask Will Hardy about this before the game yesterday, and I wasn't trying to get him to like, are you sure Isaiah shouldn't be starting? Like, that's not what I was asking at all, but the term, and even Will used it unprovoked. It was the word I was going to use, but I didn't. And then Will said it, so I brought it up. It said, like, Isaiah Collier's being used as a, quote, change of pace player. And my question was just like, why is he the change of pace? Versus why isn't he just the pace? And then Keontae's the change from that. Mm-hmm. Because what if Isaiah's just better?
Yeah.
Or, again, goes back to my prediction in the offseason, was that at some point Walt Clayton would take over the job as the starter. I didn't think Keontae would make the jump that he has, and he certainly has. And I didn't know if Isaiah was going to play this well, but, man, do people recognize how good Isaiah's been over the last 4 games? Let me see if I can pull that up as well. But Isaiah's last 4 games, he's just been stellar.
Yeah.
In fact, there's an argument he's been better than Keontae. And again, it's just what Will Hardy's answer was, I'm just trying to maximize 48 minutes on the floor. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that Isaiah playing with that second unit for the first 36, because you saw Isaiah close the game last night. He's on the floor till late in the game because he is one of the Jazz's 5 best players right now, I think. Isaiah is better with that bench unit. I think it's because he can do a little bit more and do it more efficiently, even if it's more of a simplified game. And it complements those guys more than Isaiah not being able to shoot the 3 and how that changes the starting lineup. But Isaiah's last 4 games, which is really, his first game back against Minnesota, whatever, 11 points. He's averaging 8.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. He's only turning it over twice a game. He's shooting 63% from the floor. He's shooting 50% from 3. He's taking 1 every other game.
Yeah.
So that barely counts. But he's getting to the free throw line 5.5 times as well. Like, the Jazz's guards are playing extraordinarily well. It's why they are winning some of these games right now. And look, if those guys do continue to play at a high level, even if shots don't fall for Keontae super well, the Jazz will win 25, 26, 27 games.
I would have to go back to see, or I feel like it may be a better way to see this is if Isaiah starts a few games in a row and then teams come in and be like, okay, this is how we'll scheme against Isaiah. I think maybe what the problem with him in the offensive, in the starting lineup would be is that, okay, you can treat him sort of like a Russell Westbrook, and then you have like always help defender at the top of the key area.
Yeah.
And then that is like, okay, now Markkanen is going to have a lot more trouble getting his catch at the wing and go in. So
the difference is he's shooting. I wish I could pull it up from 2. I just have the field goal made again. I'm sorry to feel unprepared. I'm just kind of looking at this as we go. He's just scoring so well and finishing at the rim. Again, because he's not taking any threes, I bet we can basically do the math here. I mean, he's shooting 63% from the floor, which means that the reason teams do have to guard him is because he is so fast. If he gets ahead of steam, he's either getting a layup or he's going to draw a foul.
True.
And Keontae said this yesterday in the postgame as well. He said, there's not a lot of guards in the world stronger than Isaiah Collier. And that's true. He is an absolute bowling ball.
Yeah.
And not to beat a dead horse or go back to something that's been, talked about a lot, but like there is a reason Isaiah was the number 1 recruit in the country. Yeah. Like that's a thing. That's a real thing. He is so strong. He just gets into you and goes to the foul line over and over and over. And look, the best players in the NBA live at the foul line.
Yes.
The best guards specifically live at the foul line. Shea lives at the foul line. Jalen Brunson lives at the foul line. That's why they're such good players. So Isaiah may not be able to shoot the 3 that way, but if he lives at the foul line, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
So anyways, interesting there. I thought Isaiah deserves some flowers. He's played really well since he's returned to the lineup, and honestly, probably better than I expected. Yeah. I don't want to say I was down on Isaiah coming into the year, but I wasn't expecting. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And he certainly exceeded whatever those expectations I had were. All right, shoulders. What's the defensive ceiling of the Jazz this season? The eye test seems to show a lot more effort than last year, but the defensive metrics I've seen are still pretty bad. Well, you're basically playing 3-on-5 every night.
Yes.
Because Nurk can't defend, and Lowry still has some just like go back and look at the Kobe White layup to send the game to overtime. And it was like, Lowry, you were 2 feet away from him, and you're 8 inches taller than he is, and you've got a 40-inch vertical. Like, no contest?
Yeah.
Like, what? It was weird.
Yeah.
Lowry still has a lot of those. He's just not. I'm not waiting on Lowry as a 28-year-old to like lock in defensively. And when your center is so bad defensively, whether it's Nurkic or Kevin Love, and having zero ability to really dissuade anything at the rim, the ceiling is low.
Yes.
The Jazz are just not going to be like anything worse than the 5 or 6 worst defensive teams in the league as a result of those guys.
I was about to say, especially with Walker out, and I don't even know how much better this ceiling would be with Walker, but maybe your ceiling is the 25th best defensive team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Like there are teams that I could look at and be like, okay, like the Pelicans and the Wizards probably will not be better defensively than the Jazz. But yeah, it's pretty low.
This season, the Jazz have the 23rd ranked defense in the NBA. Over the last, 7 games, roughly, since Walker's been out. I'm not looking exactly at the number. The Jazz have the 23rd worst defense in the NBA. It's a little weird for Walker.
Yeah.
It's a little weird that Walker's presence doesn't change anything, as good of a rim protector he is. And again, everyone knows Walker's a better rim protector than defender.
Yes.
He blocks a lot of shots. He doesn't necessarily stifle opposing teams. I don't know. I'm sure the Jazz are aware of that number, obviously, and I'll be curious how they weigh it, because would you trade Walker while he's hurt if you feel like he's not going to be a part of this team this season anyways? You don't want to pay him this summer. It's a big question for the Jazz. You know, maybe it's not a big question. Maybe they say, oh, yeah, we're going to pay him. We're happy to do it. But if you don't really see a major difference, especially on the defensive side of the ball with him on or off the floor, you can find really good offensive players to replace him.
Yeah,
absolutely. That could do more, that could unlock guys maybe a little bit more than Walker unlocks these guys.
That is very interesting, because I feel like Rudy Gobert was always in like advanced stats darling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the on-off stats with Rudy. I mean, he was the best plus-minus player in the NBA for couple of years.
Yeah.
And if you were on the floor with him, I remember Mike Conley mirrored his minutes. Mike Conley was the second best on-off player in the NBA, or maybe the best, and then Rudy was second. All right, Jake the Lynx on my DMs says, now that Walker's out for the season, so not counting him, who's the Jazz's third best player? Lowry, Keontae, and then who? What's your thought?
That's a great question. And so this is interesting, because we say earlier, like Svi impacts winning more, but Ace is probably better, like more talented. So it's like, what are we weighing here?
Sure.
Like it's really hard to say. Like, I don't want to say Yusuf Nurkic, but also Yusuf Nurkic has like 12 rebounds and 5 assists every single game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very real argument.
Yeah.
He starts, he plays 30 minutes, and he grabs rebounds late in games against Chicago that allow you to win. Like, that stuff really does matter.
Yeah. But then that also makes me feel like whoever the center would be that.
Correct. He is a replacement level center, which is not a glowing endorsement of the rest of the team, actually. That Yusuf Nurkic has an argument to maybe be the third best player on the roster this season.
If this question was asked to me on Saturday before the Bulls game, I think I would have been quick to say Ace Bailey. I think he's still in that. Just because of one game doesn't really mean much. Like he does a lot of the small winning things. It's not like it's just like, okay, 20 points and then what else are you doing? Like you can like, it's a case for a lot of
No, in fact,
rookie
his
scorers.
scoring is like the thing that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It seems like that he's
Yes.
doing all these other fun things now. The scoring helps certainly, and it's why he's going to be a borderline great, if not great player in his future. But yeah, he's not there right now.
So yeah, I think I would say I'm gonna say Yusuf Nurkic.
Okay.
Even though he's replacement level, like he's doing things that make him the third best player because he's the starting center.
I'm going to say Isaiah Collier,
Okay.
and I wonder if he's the second best.
Okay.
Man, he's just playing really,
Yeah.
really well. Like, there's a major difference when he's on the court. And that's not to criticize Keontae, who, like, if Isaiah's second, Keontae's third.
Yeah.
You know, but over the last 4 games, like, there's a real argument that Isaiah's been better than Keontae the last 4 games. Now he's coming off the bench, he's doing a different job, but Isaiah's playing out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Isaiah shoots 63% from the floor and doesn't take threes anymore, like, that's the good thing about his game. Like, he recognized there was so much talk, and I asked him, and everyone asked him, where do you think your shot is? Where do you think your shot is? And you could tell he got annoyed by it.
Yeah.
It's like, what shot? Like, I don't care. I'm not going to shoot threes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to. I don't have to shoot threes. The rest of the team can shoot threes. I'm just going to get to the rim, and I'm going to do it at a really high rate. 8.5 assists over the last 4 games and 2 turnovers is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really good basketball player. So he's unique, and he's playing out of his mind. He's 21 years old. Like, there's, like, some reason to buy Collier stock right now. So, yeah, I mean, for the season, it's been Keontae. He's averaging 22 points a game and 7 assists and 4 rebounds. Has played well. He's not shooting particularly well. So I think Isaiah is the clear number 3 right now, in my opinion. Svi's in that group. Yusuf is in that group.
Yeah.
Ace is in that group. And Flip's honestly played pretty well.
Yeah.
I know he's not scoring a lot, but Flip's probably in that conversation too. All right. That's all for our private question.
All right, over to X now. First up, from Ben, says, obvious question that everyone's been asking, but what happens if the Jazz closer to 11 and 14 than 8 and 17 after this next stretch? Are they just going to go for a play-in spot? Any win now trades to stay the course?
I had heard of a potential win now trade that I told you about, but I'm not going to repeat it on the air because I can't validate it.
Yes.
So it's possible, you know. Like, let's say the Jazz wanted to trade Walker Kessler for a win now player. And I wrote about this last week, I think, in my mailbag. So, like, I laid out a bunch of different names. In fact, I can see if I can pull it up. Some names that could be out there if the Jazz wanted to get better, to make a run at it this season.
Yeah.
I don't think they would do it in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Because I do think what we just laid out from now until Christmas, you should see where you actually are.
Yes.
Because I think this is we still have to recognize small sample size. This is a really small sample size for the Jazz. And in fact, I wonder if at any point last year, maybe the answer is just no. I could go back and look again, but I didn't know this is what we're going to be talking about. Like, did the Jazz ever have a stretch last year where they went 5-8? Probably not, because they only won 17 games.
Yeah.
But did they have a 4-8? They might have. In all honesty, like, the Jazz aren't that far off of.
Yes.
I mean, again, they beat the Suns in overtime and they beat the Bulls in overtime. Like, let's say you lose both of those games right now, you're 3-10.
Yeah.
Like, again, those are last second shots that went in or didn't go in.
Yes.
You know, a Kobe White turnover or a Keontae George made 3. Those are the difference in those games. So the idea that, like, 5-8 is some, bellwether of what's coming for the Jazz, I don't necessarily agree with that. But speaking of Walker Kessler, I went through, and here's how I laid it out. Teams that are not trying to win this year, that could use a center next year, that basically have players who are entering contract negotiations this summer that they might be willing to move off of, or just young players in general. These are the names I brought up that would probably make the Jazz better this season because you're adding somebody while Walker Kessler's not on the floor. Jarris Walker, former top 10 pick. Jazz fans really like him. He's not really done much in the NBA. Ben Mathurin, who's a high scorer who would give the Jazz another element and doesn't play the way Rick Carlisle plays. So he's pretty Jonathan Kuminga-y actually in that he's a really good player who's in the completely wrong system.
Yes.
Cam Thomas, who can really light it up, really scores, doesn't play defense. Anthony Black, Orlando Magic. Peyton Pritchard, they could use a center next year. They're playing, with all due respect to former Utah State great Nimi Keita. They're starting, like, they would love Walker. He's a much better player there. And they're not necessarily trying to, like, win. They know they're not winning a title next year. Ayo Dosunmu, who we saw last night. I really like Ayo Dosunmu. or Kobe White.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to, let's say the Bulls finally convince Jerry Reinsdorf, like, we want a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
We can get there if we get rid of Kobe White. Let us trade Kobe White for Walker Kessler and whatever little salary you have to match. Or I said Jordan Hawkins. Jordan Hawkins is not a very good player. He's just not ever developed as the shooter I thought he was going to be. Did not actually turn into Ray Allen the way some people thought. I don't know. Those are some interesting names. Like, it's not nothing. And again, if the Jazz are looking at why is our defense not worse when Walker Kessler's not on the floor? And would we be better off like just always having a replacement level center, and then when that one draft comes around or whatever, where you're like, oh yeah, I got to have that guy, or Daniel Gafford becomes available, or whatever it is, and you're just like, yeah, I can bring him in for replacement level or for a late first round pick or a couple of second round picks. He's just as good as Walker. If that's how the Jazz feel, fine. So I'm just saying, like, there are situations where the Jazz could potentially make a win now trade to get better this year with young guys who could still fit into the future. Mm-hmm. You have to wait until December 15th. You don't have to. You can trade Walker whenever, but December 15th is when everybody who signed a contract this offseason becomes eligible, so the whole league can be traded. There's no reason to make a trade before that and actually see what the market is. And then by December 15th, you'll actually know if you are a team that's 3 games below 500 or if you're a team that's 12 games below 500 and you're just going to let this thing put itself to sleep. And you'll just coast into a top 7 pick. And then next year, you've seen the makings of what this team is going to look like when it's good again, and you'll just get back to that and start trying to win there.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's really no reason right now because it's a small sample size. And then, like we just pointed out, if the Jazz win 2 or 3 games before Christmas, then it's like, why would we try to turn this around right now?
It's a moot point.
Yeah.
All of this becomes pretty negligible, and fans will laugh at the idea that they were worried at 5 and 8 that the team was winning too many games.
Next up, Polly Hardy. Any idea on what the role of Niang will be once he's back? There are very few minutes left to go around. Is he spot minutes occasionally like Kyle Anderson or a regular rotation guy?
I would think a regular rotation guy. George is a good player. Mm-hmm. I would think he would need to step in and play. Where? I do not know.
Would you think there's any chance? It's hard to say because I think Svi is definitely more of a 2 and he's more of a 3-4, but do you think there's any chance that like he takes those minutes?
I would if he takes Flip's minutes.
To
be honest with you. And then Flip has played 4 because they moved Lowry to the 5 more. Yeah. So I wonder if he would take some Flip minutes because George is a 4, So that would be who I would keep an eye on. But again, I don't know if the Jazz are going to be like, man, we gotta sacrifice all the young players' minutes. Like, I know people are asking about Walt, and maybe Walt is losing some minutes to Svi right now, in all honesty, even though Isaiah coming back was the signaling the end of Walt playing. I don't think the Jazz are going to do that a lot throughout the lineup. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the goal to limit young guys to play vets. But, and we get another conversation about this or another question about it. Like, George probably has some trade value if you can get him back on the floor and let him play well. Yeah. And I don't know if, as we talk about these next 14 games for the Jazz, where you and I kind of calculated 3-11, does George Niang put you up at 7 and what would the math be? 7-7? No, he does not by himself. No, he's not that big of a replacement over Flip, who again has been kind of a plus-minus darling for the Jazz this season.
Speaking of that spot, Just Jazz Zach asks, have you heard a timeline for Taylor Hendricks?
I have not, in all honesty. And hamstrings are wonky. Hamstrings you got to be careful with. Again, we asked Will about it right after it happened because it was he and Kyle Anderson were ruled out at the same time. And Will said it's more day-to-day than it is like a long-term thing, but that was a week ago. So clearly it's not nothing, but they'll let him sit on the side. There's no reason to rush him back. Hamstrings are scary. You could really send him back for a long stretch.
I was about to say, both because of the team and the player, there's absolutely no reason to rush him getting back. Yep. Next from Quinn. Utah is genuinely the most interesting place for 1 overall. The Jazz have never had the first pick. Do they take AJ, who has chosen twice to play here, Cam, whose dad is a Jazz legend and a scout for the team, or Darren, who might be the best player but has no ties like the other two?
Best player. Number one overall. Now, there's going to be a debate of who the number 1 overall player is, and then maybe if you think like, man, I really think it's 50-50. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm trying to think of how many drafts there are of this period. Like, Greg Oden, Kevin Durant might be the closest of, like, true stars that are 50-50. And obviously they should have taken Kevin Durant. But they went with kind of the traditional thing of go with size. Now, that was right as the NBA was transitioning into, like, no, you want to have these super rangy wings like KD and LeBron and et cetera. They didn't. No, I don't necessarily blame the Trailblazers for making that pick. And Greg Oden was awesome in college. But then maybe you would say, like, if you could not separate Darren Peterson from AJ DeBonta, you might go with fit And then would AJ stay here longer?
Yeah.
You might start to weigh those types of things.
Yeah.
But man, they're all awesome. They've all been good. AJ was terrible in the first half against UConn and then had 21 in the second half and they almost willed BYU to a victory on the road against the number 3 team in the country. Technically neutral site, but East Coast. Darren Peterson's been out with a hamstring injury. He hasn't played the last few games. And Cam Boozer puts up 20 and 20 every time he steps on the floor.
Cam Boozer's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's like the least like NBA style player of those guys. And even then there's a real argument Cam could be the best of all 3 of them.
Yes.
Like that wouldn't surprise anybody 5 or 6 years from now.
Yeah. Next up from Brandon Brinson on the opposite, basically an opposite question from that one. How do the Jazz build a better than play-in team over the next 5 years if they lose their pick this year? The timeline centers around Lowry, but what free agents are available and what are trade possibilities over the next 2 years? Do we enter Booker or Giannis sweepstakes?
Probably not, unless you're trading Ace.
Yeah.
Certainly, you wouldn't trade Ace for Booker, unless like something else fell into place and you're like, oh, we are Devin Booker away from winning a title. We being how Austin Ainge and Justin Zanuck and Danny Ainge would look at the team, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, you would take Giannis if you could get him, of course.
Yeah.
You know, Giannis is still the 3rd best player in the world, so you would take him. No, I actually don't think it revolves around Lowry's timeline.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I still think it has everything to do with the Jazz's development as a young group. And Ace and Keontae and Isaiah and whoever else is in this group, even if you don't get a draft pick this year, it's like, how good can those guys be? Can Ace turn into a legitimate all-star? He looks like he has the potential, certainly, to do it. And then does one of Keontae or Isaiah get there? And then, who else of this cacophony of players you have, who else jumps through?
Yeah.
Or what do you trade Lowry for?
True.
I don't think we got a question about it. We do get a little bit of a question about it. So I'll touch on it then.
Yeah. Next up from Scrabby, who are your favorite teams to watch this season so far? An all-encompassing NBA question.
I will admit, because it's early in the season and college football is still going on, and my radio job, I still have to watch all the college football games.
Yes.
I have not been as dialed into League Pass as usual. So I've not been able to flip around and watch those games as much. I'm also watching hockey because I talk about it on the radio as well. So I have not seen as many teams as I would like. And then the other problem with me right now is I don't really care to watch the good teams. I care to watch the bad teams because the bad teams have players that we talked a lot about in the draft.
Yes.
So I want to see what Jeremiah Fears looks like. Like I've seen the Wizards play several times because I want to see what Trey Johnson looks like. I've been following that way more than I have been OKC. I don't want to watch OKC. I know because I know what OKC does.
Yeah.
Houston, I watched their first game. I always love watching Denver. I love watching Minnesota. But I'm going to get an extra 3 months to watch those guys or 2 months starting on April 15th when the playoffs start through June 15th. Like I'm going to see all those teams play a lot. I'm not going to see Washington. I'm not going to see New Orleans. I'm not going to see, I don't know who else had a really high pick this year. Like all those teams later in the year, I don't really care.
Yeah.
About them then. We will have an idea of who their young players are.
Yes.
So I like watching the young players early. So it's not necessarily teams, it's more players, if that's an answer.
For me, I have 3. I like watching Denver a lot because every game Jokic plays is just like, he is like...
It's a gift.
Yeah, it's seriously like, okay, let me see what the perfect decision is every single possession.
Yeah.
I like watching the Spurs because Wemby is also one of those players where it's like, maybe not perfect decision every possession, but it's just like every possession, it's like a human can
Something
do that.
You've never seen.
Yeah. And then last, sort of a wild card is the Orlando Magic, just because I like watching Paolo a lot.
I like watching Orlando too. Orlando would have been one of the teams I will like when they're on. I will tune into an Orlando game.
Yes.
Detroit's been kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
So there's and you know who I watch a lot? I watch them every time they're on. Knicks. I love watching the Knicks because I'm admittedly a huge Jordan Clarkson fan.
Yes.
And he's been playing awesome, so it's been fun to watch them. And it seems like they only play home games, and I love watching games at Madison Square Garden. So I've seen a lot of Knicks games. I've probably watched 4 Knicks games already this season. So, which, that's 25% of their games. So I like watching the Knicks.
Next up from Nadles says, clearly OKC is taking the Jazz pick. After 4 years of being terrible and only getting a number 5 pick out of it, how do Jazz fans hope for the future without adding a star? Just accept mediocrity and have fun watching regular season wins? ?
Well, Lowry's a star.
Yeah.
And Ace, I think, is going to be a star. I truly think that. So if nothing changes, you have 2 stars on your roster.
Yeah.
How good Ace becomes then is far more important than if you add another player. But it's not a reasonable pathway. If the Jazz, there could be an internal conversation, and I don't know. But there could be an internal conversation with the Jazz that says, what we have already seen from Ace Bailey in the first 15 games makes us confident enough that that's going to be the centerpiece that we build around, and we don't really care to keep adding more young players to it.
Yeah.
Do I think that's the conversation they've had? No. Do I think they've asked that? I'm certain they have. I'm certain they've wondered if that's the case already. But it's not the pathway I would take. I would still value getting this draft pick, just to be clear.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't be pulling my hair out about being 5-8 right now, because again, I'm fully confident that the next 14 games are going to solve this problem for you, and then the following 50 games after that, 55 games after that, are going to further underline that the Jazz are still where they are. But yeah, if, like, let's say worst case scenario, the Jazz end up with the 9th pick, it goes to OKC, like, the Jazz aren't mired in mediocrity from here on out.
Yeah.
You know, they will be fine.
And here's the other thing too, is I think if you have top 5, top 6, cool. Like that's a solid pick, and you're adding another good guy. But if it's 7 through 10, then like you said earlier, like, are the Jazz really going to benefit that much from adding another Taylor Hendricks, Cody Williams?
Right. And the truth is, like, I know this draft is a lot better.
Yeah.
This draft is a lot better. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Maybe 5. Again, you start getting to 6 and 7. Like, don't believe the person who said, man, there's a chance Cooper Flagg would have gone 6th in this draft. No, he wouldn't have. No, he wouldn't have. In fact, more likely he would have gone number 1 overall.
Yes.
I mean that. If you're good enough to go number 1 overall one year, you're most likely good enough to go number 1 overall both years. Like, Cooper was a better player than AJ has shown so far this year at BYU. And I know Cooper started the season slower, so I'm going to let AJ get to 30 games
Yes.
and, see if he can get BYU to the Final Four the way Cooper Flagg did. But, like, if you're good enough to be the number 1 pick, unless you're Zachary Rieseshay, on these one-off horrible draft years, you're good enough to be at most seasons.
Like, it's so funny how fast the hype switches from year to year. Yeah, I
It's
agree.
so stupid.
Cooper Flagg had better stats at Duke than Paolo and Jason Tatum. Like, you look at that and be like, okay.
Right.
Like, there's no way he falls out of the top 2 or 3.
Right. And we always say it. Oh, is he the best prospect since LeBron? It's like, well, we've said that about Victor, and we've said it about Zion, we've said it about Cooper. Like,
Yes.
there are really good number 1 overall picks, and that's going to be the case again this year.
Yes.
But, like, you're talking about 5th, 6th, 7th in the draft. Go back and look at every 5th, 6th, 7th player in the draft. It's the same class of player.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over and over again. Yes, sometimes Dwayne Wade gets drafted 5th overall, and maybe Ace Bailey is Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's that caliber of player. That happens occasionally as well. But generally, the 5th overall player or the 6th overall player or the 7th overall player is right in that range of guy. Yeah. And it's like Derek Favors.
Yes.
Like, good player. And Derek was the 3rd overall pick, but that's generally what you're going to see. So, again, that's not to say the Jazz have to be the 3rd overall pick or they're not getting a valuable piece. Like, this team doesn't necessarily need that. Would it help? Sure. Give yourself a chance with the lottery odds of moving up into the top 3. But I think if the Jazz had another 5, 6, 7 overall pick, they're fine. Mm-hmm. And if they were to lose 8 or 9 or 10, it's not like, oh, man, what a collapse. It's more the fact that you didn't get a top 3 pick, and it doesn't seem like that's where you're trending anyways.
Next from Jazz Time Jones, is it time to pivot and trade for building pieces? This middle of the road trajectory is not ideal.
Again, no. You're just developing these young players. You're still probably going to make some consolidation trades. Like, all these young guys are not going to be a major piece of your franchise going forward. Some of them you might trade to get a future first and just say, like, hey, can you get another late first? The way they gave up on Ochai Agbaji, and that turned into Isaiah Collier, and that's looking like a really good trade because Isaiah's better than Ochai, and Kelly Olynyk's not really done a whole lot since that trade, for Toronto or New Orleans or Washington or the Spurs, where he's played. He's been traded to all of them, and he didn't suit up for all of them.
To me, like, my advice to Jazz fans would be ask yourself this question on December 15th, and then ask yourself this question on February 12th?
Yeah, the trade deadline.
Yeah. Like, and more likely than not, and again, remains to be seen, maybe the Jazz continue on this 5-8 pace for the rest of the year, but more likely than not, we will be looking at a 20 to 30% win team.
What? Let me see. 5. Let me see if I can do this. Divided by 13 is a 38% win percentage. So let's do 0.38 times 82 is a 31 win total.
Yeah.
So again, even if the Jazz play 5-8 basketball the rest of the way, they're at 31 wins. If they were on that pathway at the All-Star break, the Jazz are missing the playoffs in the West by 15 games, right? Like, they know at February 12th, to your point, pull it back.
Yeah.
Sit Lowry the rest of the season. Whatever you got to do, only play the young guys, whoever your worst players are, and lose all the games to make sure you actually only get to 26 or 27, and you're going to be fine. What I would also add is 5-8 is a little bit of a lie, because what you are ignoring is the Jazz are 1-6 on the road this year. Mm-hmm. If you were actually to just go, are the Jazz going to continue to win at this rate at home and this rate on the road? I think the Jazz are actually down around 29 wins, which again might already put you in a spot where you're safe to hold on to your pick, or you only have to lose 2 extra games or 3 extra games, not 5 extra games to break your pace.
Here's another thing to realize. You said currently 5-8 is a 31 win pace. Uh-huh. Last year, the Mavericks had 39 wins, and the Spurs had 34 wins.
Yeah.
And they were 1-2 in the draft.
Yeah, exactly right. So again, it's all lottery balls. It's not guaranteed, but the Jazz had 17 wins, and they picked 5th behind both of those teams. It's still a reason of just like, you just can't really get too concerned about it. And again, you and I did the podcast right after the lottery, and it was Sky Has Fallen. Who are you looking at? By the way, every Jazz fan would be like, if you had Con Knipple on your roster right now, you guys would be like, we got the best player in the draft. Yeah. Like, I think he's better than Cooper Flag. He's not, but that's how Jazz fans would feel, because he's scored 30 twice already. He's averaging 17 points a game, and he doesn't miss from 3. Yeah. And I told you Con Knipple was awesome, and you told us Con Knipple was awesome, because Con Knipple's awesome.
Yes.
But Jazz fans would have been furious about that idea right after the lottery. In fact, I saw the tweets in my mentions. Now he's great. Yeah. You end up getting Ace Bailey, number 5 overall, who might actually be better than Con, because he's 6'8" and has a 35-inch vertical and can do all these physical things that Con can't do, and has been nothing but awesome over the last 4 games, minus fouling out in 10 minutes yesterday. Just like, you just can't actually predict the future of what the players are going to be, who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. Again, Modest Buzelis went 1 pick behind Cody Williams. Yeah. He's a way better player than Cody. Yeah. Modest is just way better than Cody is. That's a mistake. Yeah. Jazz should have drafted Modest over Cody. What they saw, what I saw, didn't tell you that before the draft. And once they got onto the court, it was different. Anyways, you never know.
Next up, from Just Jazz Zach again, is Walt's lack of playing time something he's doing or not doing, or is it just because Collier is back and playing well?
I was going to ask Walt this yesterday, and he kind of sneaked out of the, not really, but he just like kind of walked out of the locker room before I had a chance to pull him aside, and I was going to do it. Not off the record, but not on microphone necessarily. Yeah. And he just kind of had his hood up, and I'm not going to bother him. Yeah. But no, it's that Isaiah's back. And losing your spot because of injury is not really a cool thing to do if you're a coach. You can lose players that way. And Isaiah's better than Walt is right now. Yeah. You know? And again, to the point, Svi is better than Walt is right now. Now, at some point, if the Jazz want to start losing games, or Svi doesn't play particularly well, which Svi hasn't been awesome, he will lose those minutes, and Walt will start to play more. It's okay. The other thing you could really risk doing if you're Will Hardy is playing Walt Clayton 20 minutes a night for the first 25 games of the season, and then he says, well, that's what I've done for the last 4 years, because that's what I did in college, and now I'm exhausted, and it's December 18th, and I don't have my legs anymore, and I'm going to be bad for the rest of the season. Like, just piecing out minutes for Walt is just fine. Yeah. And he will be back in the lineup, and Cody will be out, or Svi will be out, and George Niang will be in. And like, I just think you're going to see a lot of toying with the lineup. And just because a guy's not playing this week doesn't mean he won't next week. You know, Bryce didn't play last week. Yeah. And is now in the lineup this week. Is playing a lot. But a week ago or 2 weeks ago when the Jazz were in Detroit, I think he played 7 seconds. Yeah. You know, and then he played 20 straight minutes last night to close the game. I just don't think you need to read into any of that.
And another thing for Svi, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, looking at Svi, like last year we had these talks with Colin Sexton, John Collins, right? Now I think like Svi definitely isn't as good as either for those two, but still, point remains, the Lakers are the 7th worst 3-point shooting team in the league right now, but they have playoff and maybe championship aspirations. Maybe Svi's a guy you add for 5 to 8, 10 minutes.
And yeah, what does Svi make? $2 million a year?
Yeah, and he used to play there.
Svi is actually, because we have another question about this, of like tradable guys, or these guys all trade fodder. Svi, actually, the Jazz are building up his trade value pretty well right now. Yeah. He's averaging 27 minutes a game. He's averaging 9.5 points. He's shooting 47% from the floor and 37% from 3. Now, he was red hot to start the season, and he's cooling off a little bit. Like, that's a pretty easy player to throw into a trade for a second-round draft pick. Yeah. And you could do it when when did the Jazz trade Patty Mills last year? I feel like that was early. A little earlier in the trade deadline, right? It might have even been December. Might have been January. You could do that with Svi if you decide to move off of Svi, and you don't have to. Here's the other thing about Svi that's funny. Like, worst case scenario, he hangs around. He's like a good player. Yeah. Like, he's a good 3-and-D guard. He's not taking bad shots anymore. Like, a little while early in the season, he was like, I'm going to shoot it every time I touch it. He's not doing that anymore. He hits open shots, plays really hard defensively. As we mentioned, like his wisdom actually helps you win more than other players right now. Like if Svi's coming off your bench next year for 15 minutes a game and you're saying not only are you done trying to get lottery picks, but maybe you've invested in the roster elsewhere with some of these other guys. And I know we've had questions of like, how do you get better? It's like, oh, you pay Kobe White this summer.
Yeah.
Or you pay Cam Thomas this summer. Or you pay these other names that I mentioned that didn't get contract extensions and try and poach them from their teams the same way another team could try and poach Walker Kessler from you. Like, Svi's not the worst player to have coming off your bench. Svi's your ninth guy. You're probably okay. And that could be very realistic. Lead the situation next year, and he doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah. Shout out to Hayden. He was the one who asked, is there any chance the Jazz trade him? And even though this sounds counterintuitive, I think Svi is far more tradable than Colin Sexton and John Collins were last season.
Yeah, because those guys made $19 and $26 million a year.
Yeah.
And what does Svi make right now? Let me see if I can pull up his contract. Svi is making this season, scrolling, $3.5 million.
Yeah, that is like nothing in NBA terms.
Actually, I guess it's $3.6 million. So yeah, really easy to trade.
Next up from positive,
and I think all of his money's non-guaranteed beyond that.
Oh.
So he's got like these non-guaranteed deals. So next year it'd be $3.8 million, and the year after that team option for $4 million, but they're all non-guaranteed. So.
Gotcha. Next up from positive Jazz guy, was that Keontae's first ever NBA game winner? Do you know if he has had others in college, high school, etc.?
Certainly his first NBA game winner.
Yeah,
he didn't have any in college. Not like that.
Yeah.
And I have no idea about high school. Probably hit some game winners in
Yeah.
high school, but no, I don't remember him doing it at Baylor at all. He had big games. He had like 30-point games at Baylor, but I don't remember him hitting a last-second shot, certainly. And, those are rare. I asked him about it after the game. I said, like, are you able to appreciate that, like, that's the shot 10-year-olds shoot in their driveway or go to the school and shoot and count down and hit the shot? Like, that's the shot. Double overtime against the Bulls, you hit a three. Other than had you waited 0.8 seconds, then the horn actually would have gone off. But like that's the shot you dream of. And his maturity is like, no, I'll go home and watch it and enjoy it, but I haven't thought about that yet. It's a big shot, and they're rare. Donovan never hit one in Utah. Donovan Mitchell never hit a shot like that. Made 3 All-Star games in Utah or whatever it was, and never had one of those. Rudy had more buzzer beaters or game-winning dunks or block shots than Donovan ever did. You just don't see it very often.
2 questions from Connor Morris. First, the teams that want Lowry don't actually have super valuable first-round picks because he'd likely be traded to a team trying to win now, and the picks they give us wouldn't be in the lottery. Would you agree? And is the most valuable pick out there the 2026 Pels pick the Hawks have? I think that that pick next year that they traded, the only thing more untouchable in the NBA is Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, Victor.
Jokic.
Giannis probably, in all honesty. Like, if the Hawks went to, or if the Bucks went to the Hawks and said, we want that pick, here's Giannis, you trade it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man, that pick is crazy valuable.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot like that. It's an all-time mistake. It's just one of the more baffling decisions anyone's ever made. Joe Dumars is an absolute bozo. So I don't know what he was thinking there. Can you repeat the question for me one more time about Lowry's trade?
It was talking about trading Lowry. He would most likely go to a win-now team, and the picks they have in return wouldn't be very valuable. Do you agree?
Well, it depends on if they own somebody else's picks.
True. And how far in the future their picks that they can trade are.
Right.
Because if you trade a 2030 pick to the Jazz, like Lowry probably isn't on the team in 2030.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly right. So I've kind of wondered that too. The question is, like, as good as Lowry has played this year, like, if you were to trade him for Franz Wagner, because Orlando says, like, we're 7-7, like, we're supposed to be better than this. Paolo and Franz, their inability to shoot threes is just a little too similar to one another. We want to mix it up a little bit. Here's Franz for Lowry. Like, do the Jazz get worse? Like, does that actually guarantee that the Jazz don't get their pick anymore, or Jazz hold on to their pick anymore than if they trade him? So, like, if you're trading Lowry, you probably need to get worse. And then, you're trading him to a team that, like, are they wanting to give up their draft pick this year? Probably not. That would be certainly something the Jazz would love. Again, Indiana gets really interesting. Like, would Indiana trade their first-round pick this year for Lowry, knowing that next year when he comes back, they have Lowry, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam? They're like, we're really good again. Like, maybe finals good, and Lowry helps us get over the top.
Yeah.
Especially if you could get, like, what if you could get Lowry and Walker together in a trade for whatever your bad salaries are? And again, your team gets really expensive because you got to pay Walker. I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm trying to walk through this. Yeah, as much as Lowry really fits, here's where it's valuable. The Spurs. Because the Spurs own so many other teams' picks. The Spurs have a Dallas pick coming up, and Dallas is about to enter a rebuild, and the Spurs have a Minnesota Timberwolves 2030 pick that they traded for Rob Dillingham.
Yeah.
So, let's say you were to do Lowry for Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, or whatever the contract is, and those two unprotected picks, Minnesota and Dallas. You get worse. They get a 40-point per game all-star, apparently, in Lauri Markkanen, who fits perfectly next to Victor Wembanyama. That's the trade that makes a lot of sense, and it's why San Antonio has been brought up here before.
And here's the thing. Looking at the trades that the Jazz have already done for their all-stars, right? You brought in a bunch of picks from Minnesota, and best case scenario, I'm not wishing injuries on anybody, but best case scenario for the Jazz, Ant Edwards go down, and that's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
But in reality, it was the 21st pick. So,
yeah.
It's just something. Assets are worth more the further they are away, but then, excuse me, it may not play out exactly how you want it to.
Certainly. The Jazz were betting that Minnesota and Cleveland were going to be bad by this point. And Cleveland and Minnesota are still very good at this point. So those picks that the Jazz traded for have not panned out to be superstars.
Yes.
Or top 5 or 6 picks, which somehow every Oklahoma City pick that is owed to them is a top 7 or 8 pick, it seems like, or at least top 15. So that's the other thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at Detroit, who's the other team that gets mentioned for Lowry a lot, has a first-round pick from anybody else that's worth something. Doesn't look like it. They only got their own picks. But again, that's where it gets interesting. Would you take Dallas? Oh, no, it's a second rounder. But Detroit owns all their own future first-round picks. So would you say that we think Detroit secretly is a bad organization that is having a little bit of success right now, and they're going to be the Sacramento Kings who win one year and think, okay, it's time to go all in, and then all of a sudden they're terrible and they don't realize that oh man, they're actually a bad franchise? Would you trade Lowry to Detroit to get 3 of their unprotected future firsts and then whatever salaries they want to get rid of, any young player, and bet on that?
Next up, another one from Connor Morris. If you could add AJ, Darren, or Cam today to the Jazz roster, who would you pick?
It's probably still Darren.
Yeah, I would agree.
Again, he's only played a couple of games because he's missed the last 2 games. He shot the ball really well. Let me pull up his stats. And look, all of these guys are good players. And AJ's been really impressive. AJ's really good. He might be a little similar to Ace just as far as that's the position he plays. And the Jazz, as good as Keontae has played and as well as Isaiah has played, don't have Darren Peterson, who's averaging 21, 3, and 3, which doesn't necessarily blow you away other than the fact that, again, this is a 19-year-old playing his first 3 games of college, and they're against, Chicago Charleston, which is not a school or something, but, some made-up team. He's shooting 50% from 3.
Yeah.
He's taking 6 a game, and he's hitting half of them. The Jazz having a ball-in-hand three-point shooter who is also, a lead distributor would be a major plus.
And again, looking at fit for college is wrong for so many reasons because who knows what they'll eventually be in the NBA and who knows how their style will translate from college. But I almost think AJ fits the worst with the Jazz of the 3.
Interesting.
I think, like you said, I think just blatantly the Jazz need consistent guard play, and Darren maybe will end up being that. And then I just think that Cam Boozer would slide in between Ace and Lowry and Walker really well in the future.
Yeah, so. I need to watch these guys more because, again, it's 4 games and they're playing terrible teams for the most part. But, Cam Boozer's averaging 22, 10, and 4. Yeah. He shoots 37% from 3. It's just he's pretty awesome. Yeah. Pretty awesome basketball player. Yeah, what if he's Domantas Sabonis with a good 3-point shot? Can he be that type of player and maybe a little bit more savvy defensively, just knows how to move his legs? That's not an actual comp I'm throwing out there, but that caliber of player is all of a sudden a superbly high player.
Yes.
Or Darren Peterson, is he Shea? That's kind of the hope for him. Those are all the big questions. So I get why everyone wants a top 5 pick. I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
Again, you can't guarantee yourself a top 3 pick in this draft, and those are the 3 guys you want to get. You're going to have to get lottery luck one way or another, and the worst team isn't guaranteed it by any stretch.
Next up, Denny B. Karchner. Can Lowry keep this up the whole year?
No. I'm going to say no.
No? Okay. I think, he's not going to have how many? He has 3 40-plus point games through 13 right now?
13 games.
He's not going to finish with however many 20, 30, 40-point games at the end of the year.
Yeah, that way you would times it basically by 6 to get to the end of the season. So,
20,
no, he's not going to have 18, 20, 30 or 40-point games.
Yeah. But with that said, let me look at his stats really quick. He's averaging 28 points, 6 rebounds, and he's shooting 45 and 33.7. I almost expect 33.7 to go up, his 3-point percentage.
Yeah, that's low. Yeah.
But, like, if keeping it up is 27 plus points per game, I think that's very reasonable for him.
I just tweeted it out this morning. He's one of 2 players in Jazz history to average over 30 per game over the first 13 games. And it's he and Adrian Dantley. He's got, 398 points on the year or something like that. It's the third most ever for a Jazz player through 3 games. He's not going to keep that up. He's not going to average 30 points per game.
Sorry, I was looking at old stats. He is at 39% from 3 and 30.6 points per game.
Yeah. He's playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
This is a crazy level of basketball. And again, I'm not trying to keep the Lowry trade hype train going, but like, you think historically about what it would cost to get a player who averages 27 a game, who's in his prime, who's under contract control for the next 3.5 seasons if you were to acquire him mid-season, who fits basically every team, who's 7 feet tall, who, like, this should be relatively replicable. Now, if you trade for Lowry and you're the Spurs, you're not expecting him to average 27 points a game anymore. You're hoping 18 to 24 on elite numbers, and then knowing that, hey, there's that one playoff game where Victor is not playing well or has foul trouble, or whoever your point guard's going to be, Steph Castle or Dylan Harper or De'Aaron Fox, whoever it is, like, doesn't have it. Lowry can score 40 in a playoff game.
Yeah.
Like, he might be able to.
Yeah.
That's what you're betting on. That's why you're giving up all this these future assets for. The price has to be so high.
Yes.
And here's the thing. If the price is so high, where the Jazz are, they do still have to listen.
Yeah.
You know, and you better... I don't envy an Austin Ainge in this situation of being like, you've got to really stick to your brass of like, what do you believe in your heart of hearts about the NBA, where it's going, and what's valuable? And what I would mean by that is like, how valuable do you actually think what Lowry does is?
Yeah.
And it's, again, because the other top 5, I think there's 5 guys in the NBA right now averaging over 30 points per game. You can look it up.
Yeah.
I think it's Shea. I think it's Luka. I think it's Giannis. And I think it's Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, that's right. Luka, Giannis, Shea, Tyrese, and then Lowry's the last one.
So Lowry's the worst of those players.
Oh, sorry. Donovan's at 30.4 now.
And okay, Donovan.
Yeah.
Lowry's the worst of those players.
Yeah.
Donovan is flawed.
Yeah.
He's really good, but he's flawed. But he's a top 10 player in the NBA right now. I think right now Tyrese is a lot closer to that than I think people realize. Like, I don't think people recognize how good of a player Tyrese Maxey has turned into. He's just a star. He hits crazy shots. He's a great 3-point shooter, really prolific. We know how good Giannis is. We know how good Luka is. We know how good Shea is. So it's like, do you sell at the highest of highs on Lowry if you fully believe in your heart that this is not who he is?
Yeah.
You know, that like, this is sustainable for 20 games, but also like, the other weird thing is like Lowry's averaging 30 points per game and the Jazz are 5-8.
Yeah.
The rest of these teams are pretty good that we're talking about there, right? OKC, what's crazy about Shea is he doesn't play fourth quarters.
Yes.
Like, he's doing all this without ever playing the fourth quarter because the blowouts are so enormous.
Shea, I think he has the most total points through, he has the most total points through all quarters. And then second place is Shea through 3 quarters.
Yeah, that's insane. You know, he's not as good as Luka. He's not as good as Donovan because he's just not as dynamic with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he took some ISO shots and ended up with that one crazy one that he made falling out of bounds yesterday, talking about Lowry, but like, it was a terrible shot. He doesn't generate a lot of good looks for himself. Basically, everything still has to be created for him. All these other guys create for themselves for their offense, why they're more valuable than Lowry. So, do you believe that your best player, being the best player because you pay him $40 million a year, your highest paid player can be a guy who has to have everything created for him, which is basically the case for Lowry. Now, because of his physical tools, Lowry makes those creation opportunities easier, but he still has to have them created for him, right? He's setting screens and coming off them now in the pick and roll, or he's coming off of off-ball screens and cutting to the basket, or if they go under, he steps back to the three-point line. Somebody still has to feed him the rock. Is that worth $40 million a year for the next 3 years? Or the alternate of what somebody might be willing to pay for him, is that more valuable, knowing that you could get an on-ball creator that has more value?
Real quick, another thing too. For Lowry, what would you say is his biggest flaw?
I think it's self-creation and defense.
Okay. Defense, right?
Yeah.
The two biggest names linked to him, San Antonio and Detroit, the 4th and 5th best defenses in the NBA right now, just by points allowed. So it's like, if you're trading for him, you don't have to worry about that as much, especially specifically the Spurs, like Wemby is the one-man defense.
Yeah.
But also, I would say specifically for the Spurs, but also with Detroit because of Cade Cunningham, maybe the fall-off from Lowry, there is going to be one, but also maybe it's not as big as you might think because right now teams can focus most of their defensive attention to Lowry. Of course, Keontae's been good. But if he goes to these other teams, like, okay, we have to worry about Wemby and De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle and all these other people.
Right.
So
no,
it makes a lot of sense.
Trading him or why those teams would trade for him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why they would trade for him.
No, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
In all honesty, and I mean that. Like, I enjoy Lowry the person.
Yes.
He's an unbelievable basketball player. Everything we have said about where the Jazz are on their timeline is still true.
Yes.
I just don't know what you do with it. And maybe the best case scenario, honestly, is you just sit him down the second half of the season. You say, Lowry, it was awesome. We're going to keep you around. You're winning us too many games. We want to add this top 5 pick, and then you have the top 5 pick and Lowry.
Yes.
Or top 6, 7, 8 pick and Lowry and Ace, and that's what you build with going forward. And then you don't start the rebuild over this offseason because you don't have your 28 or 26 point per game score.
Yeah.
But you also might just have a slew of draft picks from these other teams. I really, you better really know what you have in Lowry or don't have in Lowry if you're making those decisions. And that is exactly what Austin Ainge's job is. And, with the benefit of the eyes of Justin Zanuck and Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith and all these people making these decisions, they all get to be a part of it. So it's going to continue to follow them. And I don't think the Jazz are making phone calls to trade Lowry. Again, when I've been told the Jazz are not trading Lowry Markkanen, and I firmly believe that's what they're saying. We are not calling to make trades. But if the Spurs called the Nuggets and said, hey, we'll trade you Victor Wembanyama for Jokic, they probably do it.
Yeah.
Victor's runway is just so much longer. So if the right crazy trade offer comes along for the Jazz, you have to listen. It's just the responsible thing to do. I bet you the Lakers said, we're not going to trade Anthony Davis. Are you crazy? And then someone said, what about Luka? And they were like, yeah, that's a great deal. We think that's going to happen. We're into that trade, actually. So, it's just, you never know. You can't predict what's going to come up. And if Lowry keeps playing at this level, what you thought you were going to be able to trade him for last year or couldn't get for him, which was like the Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski thing, that's totally out the window. You're talking about a totally different caliber of trade plus draft picks for Lowry if he keeps playing this way.
From Angry Inch, Lowry, Nurkic, Svi, and Love should all be on the block for young talent and draft capital, correct? I will say, I feel like if you're trading Nurkic, you have to get a center back. Just because, of course, if you get, for some reason, a first-round pick or a promising young player, of course you do it. But I feel like for young players to learn, they also need to have some semblance of structure, and a necessary point for that structure is having a center.
Well, nobody's trading for Nurkic.
Yeah, true.
You just put that to bed.
Yeah.
He makes $19 million a year.
Yeah.
He's the 4th worst starting center in the NBA behind Tony Bradley.
Yeah.
And Neemias Queta. And Nurk grabbed a rebound yesterday. I get it. Will was very applauded him very well. Nurk won't exit the free throw or won't exit the lane on defense. If you want to pull up from 3, just pull up from 3. Yeah. And he's going to let you have it every time. The fact that, his good rebounding does provide some value. Yeah. He's an above average rebounder. Is it that much better than what you would get if you had Oscar Tshiebwe playing right now? Raw rebounding, probably not. And here's the thing. What's Yusuf Nurkic shooting from the floor right now? He's 2 of 6 from the floor every single time you watch a game. It's almost impressive.
Yeah.
He's shooting 37% from the floor.
Yeah.
He's literally shooting 2.7 of 7.2 on field goals this season. He makes fewer than 3 a game and shoots more than 7, and he's 7 feet tall and 290 pounds. Nurkic is helping you tank games and will help you tank games. So what are you trading him for? No one wants Yusuf Nurkic. I promise you, nobody wants you unless he's just if someone's we got to have Bryce Sensabaugh and we want to trade you a $25 million player, so you got to add 19 in to make the salaries work. That's the only way Nurkic gets moved. Kevin Love, maybe someone will give you a top 50 protected second round pick. Yeah. In all honesty, if we end up with one of the 10 best records in the league, well, fine, we'll give you that second round pick. That's John Tonji. Yeah. For Kevin Love. C. Mikhailuk, maybe a mid second round pick, maybe 2 second round picks, one now and one in 2036. Yeah. Speed's not getting you a lot of value back.
Yeah.
And then was there another name in there?
Lowry.
Well, Lowry's a totally different conversation.
Yes.
So, yeah, you would trade any of those other three for a good second-round pick, but no one's coming for them.
Yeah, true. And then last one, I believe, from Denny B. Karchner. Can you please explain the Cody minutes?
Yeah, Cody's a really good defensive player.
Yeah. And it's like I said, I believe last week, when Bryce and other players, there was like an effort and energy problem. Like your minutes aren't guaranteed. Cody, get in the game. Like it's
Cody's done nothing but play hard once he gets out there. Like again, he can't shoot straight. Like there are flaws with Cody Williams. You also invested a top 10 pick in him overall. Like there is some, let's see if he can play. But right now, the thing they are asking him to do, which is different than they've ever done, which is be, as I mentioned, the head of the snake defensively, be the forward-facing defender at the top of the three-point line. As soon as the other team crosses the half-court line, like those guys are valuable. Every team around the NBA looks at that guy and is like, oh, man, we wish we had a guy who could do that. And that's not where Cody is today. But if he can become that, those guys are valuable.
Yeah.
Derek Jones, really valuable. As I mentioned, all these different players. Like, if Cody can get there, all of a sudden he has value, and that's not a wasted pick. And there's reason right now with the Jazz to try and figure out if they can use him that way.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't think it's actually that hard to explain the Cody minutes other than I get he's awful offensively. The Jazz don't have an offensive problem. They scored 150 in 2 of their last 3 games. Jazz can score.
Yeah.
This is kind of what we talked about in the preseason is like Jazz might be able to score 130. The problem is they give up 135. Now they're trying to figure out how to not give up 135.
Yeah.
And Cody might help that.
One thing I'll say is when talking about minutes or talking about like the scope of the season, too many wins, Will Hardy knows how to play his guys better than me and anyone else. Mm-hmm. And Danny Ainge and Austin Ainge and Zanuck, they know what they're doing and what their mission is this year better than anyone else. They know what to do.
Yep.
So
Cody's also in a weird spot. Like, I kind of don't blame him for not shooting straight right now because, like, last night he played 18 minutes. He got 4 shots. So he's getting 1 shot every 3.5 minutes, which is what, every 9 possessions? Mm-hmm. And it's usually not a grenade necessarily, but it's like, well, we looked at 4 other options and they weren't there. So, like, Isaiah drove and threw the hammer pass and you're just kind of open in the corner. Will you shoot that now? Okay, no. And he missed all 4 last night. And, he was only 4 of 13 before that in his last 3 games. But he doesn't play every night. He probably takes a shot once every 4 minutes. It's like it's about as low as you can get for a player.
Yes.
That's actively playing.
Yeah.
1 shot every 4 minutes is nothing.
Yeah.
So it's about what he averages. He needs to hit 2 of them. He missed all 4 of them. Yeah. So it's a small sample size again where a couple of misses are going to really sway what it looks like, how he's doing. And he's got to figure out what shots am I taking, how often am I getting them, and can I knock them down? That's just really the key for him. And then be a good defensive player. So I'm happy Cody's getting minutes. Yes. I really like Cody, the person. He's really quiet. He's kind of not shy, but I just think he's like a really pleasant person to talk to. And he's like kind of become not Svi hated, but like he gets a lot of hate. He gets a lot of questions like, why is he playing at all? It's like, well, he's 21 years old and he was the number 10 overall pick. You got to see if you have anything there. So just because I like the human interest aspect of it, like I like seeing him play and actually have a little success, and I think he has that on the defensive side of the floor.
All right, I think that's it.
For the season, Cody Williams has played 8 games. He is plus 24 this season. He was -8 against Phoenix in their blowout loss when Will threw him out there because he was mad at how everyone else played, and he continued to play poorly. He was -3 against Minnesota when the Jazz just lost by 40 last Friday. Otherwise, he's had 1 game of -1. That was the opening game of the season when he played 2 minutes against the Clippers. Since then, he played 12 minutes against Atlanta, +1. He played 9 minutes against Charlotte when the Jazz got hammered on the road at Charlotte. He was +2. Last night, he played 18 minutes. He was +4. He played 18 minutes against Indiana. Everyone was going to look good in that game because the Jazz won by 50, 30. He was +14. And then in the loss to Portland, where, again, he only played the 4th quarter as a message to the rest of the team, he was +15. It's interesting to look at. Yeah. He's not... the Jazz played Cody to tank last season, and when they're playing him now, they're doing better when he's on the floor. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting switch. It's worth looking at closer. I think if you're a head coach for the Utah Jazz named Will Hardy, I would do that.
All right, I think that's it.
All right, long pod.
Yeah,
18 questions. It's a lot. It's maybe the most we've ever had in a mailbag.
Yeah.
So Jazz fans, you can say you're mad about winning, but you're interested.
Yeah.
So that's what they need. That's what they want. They're not tricking you. But yeah, like it draws your interest in. Like the Jazz are a more interesting team right now than they were at any point last year.
Absolutely.
At any point. The most interesting day for the Jazz last year was the lottery and then the draft.
Yep.
Those are the 2 most interesting days. and you've probably had 4 or 5 days that are right there with the Jazz already so far this season. So good for them. All right, that'll do it. We will be back with you again on Thursday with David James. Chandler and I will be back again next Monday. Find us on Twitter at @CHoltSports and Ben's Hoops, also at Blue Sky. In the meantime, read us at KSLSports.com.